Is your stool one of the biggest health alerts you could possibly receive? Perhaps you have never paid much attention to what leaves your body, but I am here to show you that this oversight can be a grave and sometimes fatal error. That uncomfortable moment of looking into the toilet bowl before you flush might actually be the key to detecting serious diseases long before any blood test or scan picks them up. I can tell you with absolute certainty that this is not an exaggeration, nor is it just talk to scare you. Your health is literally written in your feces. Did you know that something as simple as the color of your stool can tell you volumes about the state of your liver, your gallbladder, and your pancreas? Often, a change in shade is the first indicator of risk. And it doesn't stop there. The consistency and shape can indicate a whole host of problems within your intestine, ranging from parasitic infections to inflammation. And yes, even cancer. Today, I'm going to walk you through exactly what to look for. I will reveal the absolute worst type of stool that you must never ignore. Unfortunately, most people simply flush the toilet and move on with their day, completely unaware that their body is screaming for help. What is happening inside you could be very serious, and I want to explain how to notice these simple signs that can literally save your life. To understand what is wrong, we first need to understand what is right. What does the perfect bowel movement look like? While there are clinical charts like the Bristol Stool Scale, which classifies stool from type 1 to type 7, we can simplify this for practical, everyday life. The ideal healthy stool should be pasty and formed. It shouldn't be too hard, nor should it be liquid. Think of a sausage or a snake, smooth and soft. In terms of color, we are looking for a brown, chocolate-like hue. There is actually a fascinating biological reason for this specific color. When you eat, food moves from your stomach into the first part of your small intestine, the duodenum. It is here that it mixes with bile. Bile is naturally green. As this mixture, which we call chyme, travels through your intestines, it undergoes a chemical process. An enzyme called stercobilin degrades that green bile, and by the time it reaches the end of the line, it turns the waste brown. That is the sign of a healthy digestive transit. When you finish, you should feel a sense of complete evacuation, as if everything that needed to come out has left your rectum. Now, let's look at the extremes, because this is where the trouble often begins. On one end of the spectrum, we have what many patients describe as goat droppings, or little hard balls. These are small, hard, separated lumps, often resembling nuts. If you see this, it generally indicates constipation. It means the waste has been sitting in your colon for too long, and your body has reabsorbed too much water from it. This is often a sign that you are dehydrated or consuming very little fiber. However, it can also happen in people who have diverticula, small pockets in the intestinal wall, where waste gets trapped and forms these small, dark pellets. On the completely opposite end, we have liquid stool. This is diarrhea. It's important to distinguish here between a short-term stomach bug and something more sinister. If you have diarrhea that persists for more than 4 weeks, we classify that as chronic diarrhea. This is not normal. This needs investigation. It could be a sign of inflammatory bowel diseases like ulcerative colitis or Crohn's disease, a parasitic infection, or even a tumor that is irritating the lining of the gut, causing it to weep fluid. If you are currently suffering from these extremes, especially that painful constipation or severe bloating, you have probably been told 1,000 times to just eat more fiber or drink more water. But here's the truth. For many people, that standard advice actually makes the gut inflammation worse. There is a new breakthrough regarding a specific underwater superfood, a rare spice discovered over 8,000 years ago, that targets the real root cause of this digestive gridlock, which often has nothing to do with your diet and everything to do with hidden environmental toxins. If you want to fix your digestion and restart regular bowel movements up to 3 times faster, I highly recommend you watch a short video explanation on this. Scan the QR code appearing on your screen right now with your phone camera, or click the link I have pinned at the top of the comments to learn about this underwater spice method. It completely changes how we treat a stuck gut. Now, moving beyond consistency, the color of your stool is a diagnostic map of your internal organs. Beyond consistency, The color of your stool is a diagnostic map of your internal organs. I get asked constantly about specific colors, so let's break down the myths versus the real dangers. Green stool often causes panic, but it usually isn't an emergency. Remember the bile mechanism I explained? If food moves through your system too fast, what we call rapid transit, the stercobilin doesn't have time to break down the green bile into brown, so it comes out green. This often happens during bouts of diarrhea. Alternatively, it can simply be because you ate a massive amount of chlorophyll-rich foods like spinach, kale, or broccoli. Pale, clay-colored, or yellowish stool is a different story. This suggests a problem with fat digestion. If your stool looks greasy, smells incredibly foul, and is pale, it means fat isn't being broken down. This could point to a parasite like Giardia, which coats the lining of the intestine and blocks absorption. In rarer cases, it can indicate an issue with the pancreas or a blockage in the bile ducts preventing bile from reaching the intestine. While not always an immediate emergency, it warrants a checkup. Now, we need to talk about the colors that are true red flags. These are the ones that should send you to the emergency room or a specialist immediately. First is black stool. I don't mean dark brown, I mean jet black, like tar or coal, and usually with a very distinct, terrible smell. In medicine, we call this melena. This specific appearance indicates digested blood. It usually means you are bleeding from the upper part of your digestive tract, the esophagus, stomach, or the beginning of the small intestine. This could be a bleeding ulcer or severe gastritis. The blood has traveled through your entire system, been digested, and turned black. This is a medical emergency. Then there is red stool, or stool coated in bright red blood. This indicates the bleeding is coming from the lower part of the tract, the colon, rectum, or anus. While many people assume it's just hemorrhoids, and often it is, you cannot gamble with this assumption. Bright red blood can also be a sign of a large polyp or colorectal cancer. You must get this checked. There is also a common myth I want to address regarding density. Patients often ask, "Doctor, my poop floats, or it sinks to the bottom. Is that bad?" Honestly, whether it floats or sinks is not nearly as important as the shape or color. Floating stool usually just means there is more gas or entrapped air in the waste, often due to fermentation from fibers or carbohydrates. Unless it is accompanied by oil droplets, steatorrhea, the buoyancy of your stool is not a major diagnostic marker. However, we have arrived at the most critical warning of all. The title of this message promised to reveal the worst type of stool, the one specific shape that keeps specialists up at night. We are talking about stool that comes out thin, ribbon-like, flat, or shaped like a pencil or a pen. Why is this so concerning? Think about the physics of it. Your colon is a flexible tube. For stool to come out round and sausage-shaped, the tube needs to be open and clear. If the stool is coming out consistently thin, flattened, or compressed, it means something is physically obstructing the passage. The space inside the pipe has narrowed. There are benign reasons for this. For example, if you have a chronic anal fissure, the scarring can narrow the anal canal. Or you might have diverticular disease where the bowel wall thickens and spasms, squeezing the stool. But the reason we take this so seriously is that pencil stool is a classic sign of colorectal cancer. A tumor growing inside the colon or rectum takes up space. As the waste tries to pass this growing mass, it gets squeezed and molded into a thin strip. It's a mechanical obstruction. If you notice that your bowel habits have changed and your stool is consistently thin, not just once but over days or weeks, you cannot wait. You cannot assume it is diet. You need to see a colorectal specialist or a gastroenterologist immediately. This symptom usually warrants a colonoscopy to visualize the inside of the bowel and rule out a mass. Early detection is the difference between a simple procedure and a life-threatening battle. Finally, while visual inspection is crucial, we must not ignore how you feel. The physical symptoms that accompany these changes are just as telling. One of the most frustrating symptoms is something called tenesmus. This is the sensation that you need to pass stool, even when your bowels are empty. It involves straining, pain, and cramping, but producing very little to no stool. This sensation of incomplete emptying or a constant urge to go can be caused by inflammation. but it can also be caused by a mass in the rectum tricking your body into thinking there is stool waiting to come out. Also, pay attention to systemic signs: unexplained weight loss, chronic fatigue, and abdominal pain that doesn't go away. If you are pale and tired, you might be anemic from slow, invisible blood loss in your stool. These are not things to wait and see. To summarize, aim for the brown sausage. Don't panic over green. But if you see black, tar-like stool, bright red blood, or specifically, if your stool becomes thin like a ribbon or pencil, take action immediately. Your body is incredibly smart. It gives you signals every single day. The toilet bowl is not just a place for waste. It is a daily status report on your internal health. Don't ignore it. Observe it. And if you see something that matches these warning signs, seek professional help. Your health is the most valuable asset you have, and preserving it starts with paying attention to the basics. Please, share this information with your loved ones. You never know whose life you might save just by making them aware of these simple signs.